As promised, 10,000 rounds later, here we are with the Canik Rival S. Now yes, the most controversial part of this review is going to be the country of origin, Turkey. And no, I don't mean the Thanksgiving staple, I mean that one. The place that is responsible for giving us such wonderful exports such as low-quality scattercats, Turknellies, Turcados, lead and steel optics, cockroaches, actual cockroaches, and so much more. But here we have the Canik Rival S that I actually like, so much so that I bought a second one. Well, it was much closer to stealing than it was to buying, but maybe that's just the Turk rubbing off on me. Phrasing. If you're familiar with the Canik lineup, the Rival sits at the top of the competition offerings. The Rival S is mostly the same gun as the regular Rival, but steel-framed, hence the S, coming in at a whopping 44 ounces naked. The Rival S comes in a briefcase worth about half as much as the gun itself, but more importantly comes with 2 magazines, 3 backstraps, multiple sizes of magazine release, a magwell, 5 optics plate, and a slide racker for you weirdos out there. Now the frame is of course steel, and outside of the front checkering, which does supply ample traction on the front of the grip, the rest of the grip is completely devoid of texture, and specifically the chrome finish is incredibly slick. The plastic backstraps are very muted for a competition gun, and I would like something more aggressive, so that's exactly what I did. On the dark side variant, which happens to be black, not that there's anything wrong with that per se, I have a set of brass lock grips and handle its extreme texture grip tape, which combines together to be my favorite grip of all time. There are some minor blending inconsistencies between the brass grips and steel frame, but the grip tape fills in most of that for a grippy, comfortable experience that is very confidence-inspiring and doesn't beat off the hands. Phrasing. We might as well talk about it now, but the trigger is a big selling point of these guns. A lot of the times, the uninitiated will feel the trigger and think that that is synonymous with quality. Stock, it's probably the second best striker-fired trigger on the market, second only to the PDP performance trigger. About 4 pounds, firm take-up, stiff wall, clean break, forceful reset, and you're right back on that wall again. The chrome version, as you see it, is completely stock, and the only thing you could complain about is the trigger sits very far forward, and some people don't like that. However, on the dark side variant, which again happens to be black, it is one of the best triggers of all time. I've installed the Falx aluminum trigger shoe by Overwatch Precision, curved the way I like it. This change by itself acts like a reach reduction kit, which takes about 50% of the pre-travel, shortens the over-travel, and reset. That doesn't change the trigger weight, but it does improve the dynamics. What does change the trigger weight, however, is the red trigger reset spring, which drops the pull weight to about 3.5 pounds, the reduced power striker safety plunger spring, the Glock 6-pound striker spring, all combined to give the Canik dark side, that happens to be black, a sub 3-pound trigger. Overall, great dynamics, a strong reset, and it'll give any other trigger out there a run for its money. A funny comparison is I got to play around with Logan Sucks at Shootings and Weekend Gunner's Staccato Ps, and those triggers, while having good 2011 style dynamics, suck in comparison. At first I thought Weekend Gunner's safety was stuck in the on position. No, the trigger is actually just that heavy for no reason. Well, the reason is partially because he's scared of cleaning his guns as he is talking to women. Now, all that being said, at speed, do I notice the difference between the stock and upgraded triggers? Not really. It's not until you're at about 25 or more yards trying to smash mini poppers or anything really small that you're going to start to notice a bit of a difference. While I obviously quite like the guns, let's not kid ourselves about their build quality or lack thereof. The early models were plagued with a variety of issues for about a year after launch. Fortunately, several years later, the biggest issues have been fixed, but the base gun still isn't very high quality. And by high quality, I mean the slide-to-frame fit is about as sloppy as Biden's pullout game in the Middle East. For a $600, $800 gun, it has more slop than guns half its cost. The whole thing rattles about in the hand, indicative of its Turkish fitment. Maybe we should hook up the engineers with shock collars to be used at my personal discretion. I would never claim that these are particularly nice guns or well put together. They're a Walther copy for 1/3 the price, simple as, don't kid yourself. For me, it's simply a tool, and a rough tool at that. But as a tool, it's had success in national and world titles, so it's certainly capable. For me, all I wanted was a heavy 9mm gun that could compete in carry optics, limited optics, both of which I made master with this gun, and other divisions if I wanted to. Now, talking about optics mounting, the Rival S uses a series of thick aluminum plates that screw down into the steel slide, and then the optics screw into the steel helicoils in the thick aluminum plates. And I mean thick, we're talking about Randy reviews it at a Chinese buffet kind of thick, which means the optics sit mostly on top of the already tall slide. Some people don't like that, but I don't like some people, and some people won't like this joke. One issue I've had with the optics plate is that they use the very fine threaded screws, which at least for me means I have to use copious amounts of Loctite to get the plates themselves to stay planted. The optics on the plates have always been fine, and I've used about 10 different optics on my rivals and used every plate they have to offer. Fortunately, they make aftermarket low-rise plates if the included ones are too tall, so there is a solution for you height supremacists out there. From the factory, the Rivals come with a very strong recoil spring, 18-ish pounds I believe, and a 6.5-pound striker spring. These are both wrong for the American audience. Maybe in Turkmenistanian they only use NATO loads and hard primers, but over here in the real world that's overkill. Currently in the dark side I have a 15-pound recoil spring and a big heavy brass guide rod that gets chewed up due to the wonderful slide to frame fit, and a 6-pound striker spring. The reduced power striker spring reduces trigger weight a little bit and also helps the gun not to want to go out of battery on its own. Something I noticed a lot is the factory striker spring works against the recoil spring, so lightening the recoil spring at all made the slide want to move out of position if moved too aggressively or pointed directly up. It never caused any issues, but it was disconcerting. Just lightening up the striker spring a little bit fixed that issue, and I have had 0 light primer strikes. Well, outside of a known issue, for some reason, on the Rival S specifically, it's that the striker assemblies just slowly beat themselves to death through normal use. Like, you can see how much material has rolled over through about 8,000 rounds on the first assembly. I think this might be due to a combination of poor design, poor quality materials, and again, these aren't nice guns, and an overpowered striker spring. There are basically 3 fixes to these issues. Buy another TP9 striker assembly for about 40 bucks every 5 to 10,000 rounds, or you can file away the material that is slowing down the striker, which I did and it kept working, or reduce the weight of the striker spring in an attempt to lengthen its life. I've done all 3 of those things, so while it's obnoxious and stupid, at least there is a fix. As far as other maintenance goes, I've cleaned out the extractor a couple times in that 10,000 rounds, and everything else has been mostly fine. Now, the Rival S are 5¼ inch guns, so there is a lot of barrel and slide. Fortunately, they cut away a lot of material from the slide, so even though there is more of it, the weights of the frames, slide, and barrel are within an ounce or 2 of something like a Shadow 2, so it's nothing too crazy as far as balance goes. In terms of reliability, I've had about 6 legitimate malfunctions, mostly failures to feed, or maybe 1 or 2 failures to eject, and of course the firing pins that just go bad after about 8k rounds or so, but that's more of a parts failure. It's hard to say reliability hasn't been excellent, if of course not perfect. There are still some quirks of the gun, like having to slam the slide home to feed from a full 24-round magazine, but that's also part of the fun of competition springs and followers stretching 141mm to its mathematical limits in terms of capacity. The point of this chunk of Turkish steel was about shooting, and so how does it actually do that thing? And fortunately, this is one of the things it does pretty well.
Oh my god. Oh, that doesn't recoil at all. Holy shit.
It's a heavy 9mm gun that fits my hands nicely. Comparing it to the Cajun Shadow 2, the Shadow 2 is undoubtedly more mechanically accurate, which is a drawback of the Canik. It's still fine for a handgun, but the Shadow 2 will print a 10-shot group the size of a golf ball, while the Canik might make that a baseball-sized group at 20 yards. The Shadow 2 bullets go wherever the dot happens to be, and with the Canik, they're kind of around wherever the dot might have been. The Shadow 2 recoil impulse is slower, like I feel like I'm waiting for the dot to appear where I want it. It's a soft, chunky feeling, which is perfect for competition because splits don't really matter at all. So at that very controlled match pace, stacking up alphas is really easy with the Shadow 2 without much input from me, the shooter. The Rival S, well, despite being slightly heavier in the brass grip configuration and longer, feels much more direct. Like you pull the trigger, something happens, and the dot is right back at that little spot you're staring at on the target. While it's not snappy, of course, we're still talking about 50+ ounces of steel and brass. It's much faster feeling and more violent than the Shadow 2. Subjectively, I feel faster with the Rival than the Shadow 2. Your inputs need to be more precise, and the Rival is certainly less forgiving, but at max speed, pulling doubles at 20+ yards with the Rival feels faster than with the Shadow. That, combined with my personal preference for its grip shape, texture on the Rival, makes me prefer shooting the Rival to the Shadow 2, though I recognize objectively the Shadow 2 is a better gun, better put together, more accurate, etc. But again, I like the Rival more.
Forgot to take out the dummy round.
Kind of like how deep down you know the copious caffeine addiction will catch up to you someday and that there are better alternatives and you should start doing something differently now, but you're gonna keep going because your mama didn't raise no bitch. As far as the second Chrome Rival S, I plan on slowly converting it to basically match the dark side, which means new grips, grip tape, Dremel bevel, the magwell, new trigger shoe, trigger return spring, safety plunger spring, striker spring, guide rod, and recoil spring. So yeah, most of the stuff to make it identical to the other gun. I might try out some of the aftermarket optics plates, but that's about it. Oh, and another reason to buy a second one of these things is that they don't make spare barrels for them for some reason, so each one has a shelf life of 30 to 60k rounds, and after that, good luck dealing with Turkish customer service. Another reason we should fit them as shock collars to be used at my discretion. So there you have it, the Cope Walther, the Walmart brand competition handgun, the 2011 we have at home, the Rival S, an objectively bad gun that I kinda like. God bless.
Oh, nope.
DQ.
I DQ'd right away by not following my own rules. What an idiot.
Does the shooter understand the course of fire? Yes,
No,
but he does
no,
not
the
care.
shooter does not. The shooter is retarded. The shooter is retarded. Here, let me try that again.
Yeah. Why'd you open it?